All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 360 Sports Show here on August the 30th in the year 2020. Welcome inside the show, a different show. It's going to be a bit of a different show here today. I am Andy Pizzelli, be joined shortly by Christian Lauber. If you'd like to send us your thoughts and comments, if you're watching live, the email on the show for the show is right there, the 360 Sports Show at gmail.com. You can also hit us up through Instagram and Twitter at 360 Sports Show. And if you're listening to us live, you can comment on any of those live streams, and those will make their way to us here at the show. If you're listening to this as a podcast, thank you for finding us. We're live every Sunday at 11 a.m., and then we put the show out afterwards as a podcast. So if you're listening there, thank you for finding us. Make sure you like and subscribe so you never miss a show. And that does it for the housekeeping. Like I said, I'm Andy Pizzelli. Let's check in now across time and space with my good friend Christian Lauber. Christian, how are you here on another beautiful Sunday? Let's start with first. How many days left in 2020 do we have now?
Yeah, let's get that out of the way, I guess, huh? It's 124, so we're getting closer to that double-digit mark, which is definitely a positive at this point.
Yes, the double digits are what we're seeking. I've thought about ways like how do we navigate the waters of this past week in sports? And I had been thinking about it the last couple days. And I texted you last night, and I said, I just don't have the energy, and it doesn't feel right to come on here and for us to do a sports show like we do. And I felt like that this show had to be different, and it had to, it's not going to be as long as our normal shows because I want to let what we're going to talk about breathe. And I think instead of, a lot of some of this stuff, like we've said, Christian, we're not a political show. But I think after this week, sports and politics, that line has become more blurred in the last 4 years. I think that's a good thing that athletes feel empowered to use their platform and to not just in the words of others, have told, like LeBron James to shut up and dribble. I think it's good that these guys are using their platform and trying to facilitate change. And that all kind of culminated this week. And I think me and you are in agreement, Christian. This show is just going to be about basically the boycott stuff from this week because that's just, we can't ignore it, and I think that deserves its due and the time and space to just breathe. And I'm sure there's people who maybe weren't fully paying attention, and I want to make sure that anybody and everybody knows about what happened this week and that it actually had a benefit. I think you're in agreement there.
Yeah. I mean, look, you want to say like shut up and dribble and all this stuff, and then stuff like whatever this past week happens. It's just not the way things are, and I think that's just disingenuous to tell these athletes because they're playing basketball professionally on a court that they can't talk about anything but their sport and they don't know anything.
Yeah,
that's just disingenuous, and I think this week was dominated by this boycott stuff after the latest shooting of Jacob Blake. And I think really we can take one episode and just kind of hammer through that stuff because the tie-in is, at an all-time high now. And I think the platform that the NBA players, most notably, obviously there was some MLB and NHL, we'll get into it, but prominently NBA players, thought it was appropriate to do what they did this week, and I'm on their side. So, yeah.
So let's dive in. Let's jump right on into the deep end here, and maybe give a bit of a timeline of events. Our rough timeline. Last Sunday, and I want to discuss. I don't want to get into a debate over the things like, well, what is, did he have a knife? Was he have a knife in the? Let's just talk about what happened, because and how the players reacted, because that's the story. What we know is that Jacob Blake, a black man in Wisconsin, was from all the reporting we've seen, the facts is that he was at the scene of a fight, and he was trying to break up a fight between two women, and police were on scene. And what we know is and saw from a video was him walking away to his car, and officers directly behind him not making any effort to grab him, stop him, hold him. He opens his car door and is shot 7 times in the back. And luckily, he's alive. He is alive. He's paralyzed, but he's alive. I don't think anybody who shoots somebody 7 times intends for that person to be alive. So he's very lucky. And this incident sparked tremendous amounts of outrage. We already all saw the George Floyd thing back in the spring. And that incident alone, and the amount of protesting, protesting and outrage, and that incident was enough to make a lot of athletes, when they're trying to discuss the bubble, do we come back? Is now the right time? You know, what's going on in our country, both from a virus and also the disease that is racism. Is now the right time to come back? Should we focus on these other things? And there was a debate about whether they should. And athletes decided, we should go back. We have the platform. We can voice for change. Blah 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 blah. On and on and on. Well, this happens while they're in the bubble. Another incident, a major one, that's on television. You're seeing it on. You see it on TV. It goes around social media, and these guys are outraged. And I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday. You started hearing. It started with the Toronto Raptors saying that they were thinking about boycotting their playoff game, which was supposed to start on Thursday with the Boston Celtics, in outrage of this incident. An incident of police brutality, and they weren't even the first ones. That notion, kind of spread around, and by Wednesday, you had the Bucks, who were supposed to play the Magic, hold up in their locker room, and they decide to just not play the game. We're not playing this game. The Magic were kind of caught by surprise because the Bucks really didn't talk to anybody. Not that I guess they probably should have, but either way, the Bucks decide not to play. Technically, it's a forfeit. The Magic say, no, we're not going to accept that. And from there, the league shut down. They canceled all the games. Well, not canceled, but they postponed. They paused all the games to have a discussion on what should we do. We came down here for change. We saw the names on jerseys, social justice, phrases, Black Lives Matter painted on the courts. All these players, nobody's cutting players off post game to stop them from, don't talk politics. They were given more of a platform than they'd ever been given before, and yet still things were happening. And these guys, rightly so, were upset and wanted to discuss again, why are we here? Um, I guess that's the biggest to that point. Christian is kind of like that's I think the big point to start, and where we can start to maybe break things down. Everything I've said before is fact. We're not going to argue
Yeah.
facts. And now is kind of the point. They are, they discussed. They had a big meeting, big powwow. Everybody constantly refreshing Twitter, waiting for Sham Sharina or Woj to tell us what's going on. A big powwow between the owners that were down there, a conference call with board of governors, the players, the coaches, and they had a discussion. Why are we here? We're here because we wanted to try and make change, and they debated. Uh, they voted that they had like an impromptu little poll there, and the Lakers and Clippers were the only teams that were ready and willing. Or I think they were all ready and willing, but they were the only teams that at that moment in time decided, nah, we're good, we're gonna leave. Um,
Yeah.
uh, I guess we'll break down. I've been talking too long here. We'll kind of give our both of our kind of takes on, and I'll let you go about you know the decision of staying versus going, which is better. The players decided to stay. Um, I think that's the right decision. What are your thoughts on the whole staying versus going? What's better? Yada yada yada.
Um, I would say, in my personal opinion, I think using the platform uh, while you're in the bubble is better. So obviously, you have all the signage and the things on the back of the jerseys, and that's all great, and that was good for the NBA players. But incidents just keep piling up, so obviously they want more. But I don't think leaving was necessarily going to do that. I think what they did was, number one, very appropriate and good for them for doing it. The cause is very real, and I think they're in their right to do whatever they need to do. They're going to stand up for what they believe, and I'm with them 100% of the way. I think the way they went about it was perfect. I think they created a scenario where sports became a news story, and they just shut it down for a couple days, a few days, and said, "What are we going to do next?" I don't think leaving necessarily would have solved that, because Jalen Brown, I guess, said something to the effect. I believe this is rumor. I'm not sure if this is fact, but this is what someone said. Jalen was alluding to, anyways. When you leave, what are you going to go do? Are you just going to go back to your family, or are you going to be out there, in the trenches, protesting peacefully and doing all these things? And he was one of the guys that is saying we just need more, right? So I think the way they did it was perfect. You had not only ESPN, but all the major news networks saying sports are done now, and it became a news story, and it's more impactful the way they did it. And obviously, you're going to have people that disagree with it, because that's this is the world we live in now. I think they're well within their right, and I think they went about it the right way. Leaving, not it wouldn't necessarily have the same effect as what they did. So they're going to come back and play. Now, I think this shows that the willingness is there. That this if this stuff keeps creeping up, I think they are willing to say, okay, we're shutting it down, we're done. And so I think that effect is more valuable than something like, okay, we're leaving and that's it. Instead of, okay, we're going to work with the owners, and hopefully they back what they're saying, and they do real change, and they help facilitate different things. Because I think the platform for the NBA players, especially with them taking kind of the lead on this, and as well as the WNBA players, I think it's very important for them to use the platform that they have.
Yeah, I totally agree. Um, it's you know the NBA has been it has just shown this entire year that they get it from top to bottom. Players, owners, league management, from their handling of the virus to getting a season back up and running and creating the bubble and all that, to the willingness to listen. These players basically walked away from scheduled games and said, "No, we want to talk about if this is even worth doing." And the league listened. These guys feel empowered to have these discussions, to talk, to be, social justice warriors, so to speak. Could you imagine, Christian? I said this with friends. If like NFL players walked out on an NFL game minutes before it's supposed to happen, and other teams like were thinking about not playing, maybe there'd just be too much negative PR for them now. Maybe they understand it, but you just like get the feeling that like if NFL players had done this, like the league would be like fining guys and suspending. Like it that as a league they probably, who knows if they still get it.
Yeah, the reputation that the NFL has is that they really don't. So I don't know. I think they've kind of come back to earth a little bit on it, like in the past, like maybe year. But even so, like I don't even want to know what would happen. Would owners actually take it seriously? I'm not so sure about that. I know some will, but as a league as a whole, like the NBA does, I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah, and it helps in the NBA because there's a 50-50 split in revenue. The owners and the players have an equal stake in everything, and so it's a more of a level playing field. Whereas it's not that in the NFL. That's what players have wanted for forever. So the owners always have that, and non-guaranteed contracts, et cetera, blah 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 blah. The owners have so much more power over the players in the NFL to begin with. On that note, people, you hear, and I kind of want to attack. I want to kind of systematically attack some of the arguments we hear about this, and people get upset with, oh, they're athletes, they're this is their job. If I walked out on my job, blah 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 blah, but they're still getting paid. Like, these guys make so much money, what are they really risking? I did the digging, spoke to our NBA cap expert, and I said, this is a good point. This is valid. These guys want to walk away from this season, this restart. What does that mean for them financially? What is that state, aside from not playing games, which we'll agree, if the NBA didn't play games, that in itself is not something that's going to, change the world. If the NBA wasn't playing games. So you have to dig into what is it that they're actually, what's at stake for everybody, and what can they use to help facilitate the change that they want to see, and coming up with what do you want to have happen. That's what a big thing about these meetings that the players are having was, what do we want to have happen, and we got that from them, which we can get into. But first, there's the financial thing, and this was from our cap expert. If I understand correctly, they have been paid out their salaries minus what's withheld in escrow, because technically the regular season's over, and this is all playoff time. Normally, that escrow money is around 10%. If basketball-related income, or BRI, ends up being high, normally the players get that 10% back at the end of the year. As a part of the agreement with the NBA Players Association to return during COVID, the players agreed to increase withholdings to 25% to offset potential losses to basketball-related income, or BRI. So by the players not returning, if they decided, this was when it looked like maybe the players were going to walk away. So by the players not returning, or if they decided not to return, they have no hope of getting that 25% back, plus playoff bonuses. If he leaves, LeBron just put his money where his mouth is and dropped like $8 million. These guys did not care. There was, and if for LeBron, $8 million, I think if he lost that, he's still going to keep the lights on. Some other guys, if they lose 25% of their yearly income, That's going to be a lot harder. These guys, there was
Yeah.
a, and not to mention, his quote didn't get into it, but we learned sense. If these guys walked away, it would have violated their new CBA. There would have been immense, there would have been a big labor dispute because it basically would have boiled down to the players walking away because they would feel like that their league and ownership and everything is not supporting them. And if they walked away now, what hope would there have been for a future season? You know, what would have changed so dramatically between now and say December to the point where these guys were like, well, okay, now we'll come back and play. We didn't want to play in August because of yada yada yada. Nothing's changed, but yeah, we'll come back and play the next season. No, these guys were willing to
Yeah.
risk their entire sport. So what was at stake? A lot was at stake.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, when you look at it, they were obviously willing to walk away, some more than others in different ways. But obviously, I think it's not. It's really not about if I did this at my job and like they have the I don't want to say the luxury. I mean, it's like they're in a good situation in this bubble where athletes are on this huge platform that they can use, and they were willing to forego salary, the rest of the season, a possible championship, because there's, as they all said, some things are just more important. And the cause for, the end of racism and everything else that's going on in this country is more important than basketball, as many of them were saying.
Yeah.
So it's just, when you look at it, it's not people are mixing things up like, well, he had a knife in his car and he was a bad guy and not a good person. It doesn't matter. You don't shoot somebody 7 times in the back and like it's nothing. And on top of that, it's not this single incident that is causing this, right? So people are getting them mixed up. I see so many people saying, why are they doing this now? It doesn't. It's not about the single incident, regardless of the situation that Jacob Blake was in. Right? He's in a terrible situation now because of being shot in the back 7 times, and we don't know why, obviously, but it's not about the single incident. You don't. Number one, you don't. I don't think cops are trained to do that. And if you are, there's a problem, and that's what they're trying to protest. So it's about the buildup of all these incidents over time here, and the players and everybody that is on their side obviously is tired of it. There's
Yeah.
obviously inequalities in this country, and if you can't see that, I think you're just being disingenuous.
Yeah. I think maybe now's a good time. We have the Doc Rivers audio, which is uh, it he says in 3 minutes better than probably what we'll say in like less than an hour here.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
so I'm just gonna roll that, and I think kind of what you said there, Christian, is kind of what Doc will get to. The outrage should be, it. There's outrage because there's such a discrepancy and a disproportionate amount of uh, blacks or minorities that are involved that are murdered by police. Those are facts. You can't argue with numbers. It happens. Um, so that's what people are upset about, and it's. I was talking with a friend about this sort of stuff. I said, when you really think about it, like it was only 5 generations. They were like, I thought racism was dead. Like I thought we had already ended this. And I was like, well, it takes a long time to change the hearts of men and to weed out a scourge that is racism. It is only like 5 generations ago that 5 to 6 generations ago that people that you had that uh, there were people who were slaves in this country or were born slaves into slavery in this nation. Like that's not a long time ago. Have we made a lot of progress legally? Yes. Yes, we have. We've taken our Constitution, which said all men are created equal, and upgraded that from what it was really written as, and how it was really interpreted initially as all white men, all white landowners are created equal, to
yeah,
include women, and then to include all peoples. So legally, yes, we have come a long way with our legal understanding of the rights that people should have in this country. And so, kind of along those lines, I'm going to play the Doc Rivers audio here for everybody listening. So this is Doc Rivers speaking post game on, I believe, Tuesday about this incident and everything that's going on. So let's take a look. So that's Doc talking. It, you really can't top Doc. He always seems to have the best and most perfect words. The big points I think that stand out from what Doc said is I think these three things. One, he says, I should just be a coach, which I think speaks to, like you said, Christian, the tiredness and the exhaustion of all of this, and what these guys feel like. I should just be a coach, but instead they have to deal with all of these things because it's them. It's happening to them. What white parents have to give their children a talk about being careful, and that if you watch the video, and I think this is kind of what we were saying, and this is what I think this is the biggest one. If you watch that video, you don't need to be black to be angered by it. You need to be American, and that all we want is for people, institutions, any workplace, everywhere, to just uphold the Constitution and protect people the same, equally. That's what Doc said. That's what they want. Listen, we're the ones living in fear, is what he said. We love this country, but this country isn't loving us. We just want to be protected the way that the Constitution says everyone should be, and that's not being lived up to. Doc makes you want to run through a wall, man. I can't. I've listened to that clip at least like 50 times since he said it, and every time I hear a little something different. But man, he just anybody that asks why that has anybody that's like doubts why this is important or why these boycotts of games should happen or I don't get it. Listen to him. That's why.
Yeah, I mean, look, Doc, that was pretty powerful what he said, and I know Cedric Maxwell drew correlation to like the "I Have a Dream" and stuff like that. It's just like this is the stuff you remember when there's real change and when stuff happens, because like what he said sums up everything into whatever it was, a little under 5 minutes or 4 minutes, whatever it was. It just sums it up into this is what everyone's saying perfectly. And I think he just, he spoke the truth, number one. And number two, it's just one of those things that should get around because it's just powerful enough that you kind of just have to watch it and hear what he's saying. And if you just read exactly what he's saying, you should understand why there's outrage.
Exactly. If you don't understand why people are upset, go listen to what Doc Rivers said. It'll take 3 minutes, and if you don't understand after that, I don't know. So that's about like the how and the why. Now let's get into the what. What did it achieve? That's the other thing. People say, well, what does it achieve? Oh, great. The NBA, they didn't play some games for a couple of days, and now they're coming back. They didn't even actually boycott. Like what does it achieve? Two things, right? That it achieved. The Milwaukee Bucks, who were the first to walk away for a couple of days there, and they made a statement. They wanted change. Doc Rivers said it. We got to, we want better, but we have to demand better. And what these players wanted was, hey, it's nice. We get to wear phrases on the backs of our jerseys. We get to talk and not be fined for, making the league look bad or something like crazy like that. It says Black Lives Matter in big print on all the courts. That is all great. But what actually can be done? Now, the NBA more than other leagues does a lot. From the players on on up. A lot of these guys donate a lot of their time and money to the community. A lot of these teams do as well. I know prior to the startup here, the board of governors, they discussed with the owners how over the next 10 years they're going to donate $300 million to different communities and doing towards improving areas and things. But there needs to be more change than that. And I think that's what these guys wanted, and they came out and they, it sounded like having a list of demands kind of sounded weird, but that's like for lack of better words, that's what they needed to come out with. What do we want to have happen from this? What do we want to see happen? And they wanted to pressure ownership in the league to use their power and influence, to get the attention of lawmakers, and that worked. In Wisconsin, they're convening a special session of the legislature. These guys have basically taken off since March, and not reconvened, and so that's happening. That is tangible. The full statement from the NBA. This is the joint NBA and NBA Players Association statement, which gives kind of everything that they wanted in general. Every team kind of brought forward a little bit of something different locally to their local area. But as a whole, this is what they wanted to see happen. This was their statement on deciding to come back, and what they wanted to have be the outcome of coming back and of the boycotts and everything. So this this is tangible. Again, these are tangible things that they're trying to achieve, and some of it has already been achieved. Michelle Robertson, the NBA Commissioner Adam Silver, released the following joint statement today. We had a candid, impassioned, and productive conversation yesterday between NBA players, coaches, and team governors regarding next steps to further our collective efforts and actions in support of social justice and racial equality. Among others, the attendees included player and team representatives of all 13 teams in Orlando. All parties agreed to resume NBA playoff games on Saturday, August 29th, with the understanding that the league, together with the players, will work to enact the following commitments. The NBA and its players have agreed to immediately establish a social justice coalition with representatives from players, coaches, and governors that will be focused on a broad range of issues, including increasing access to voting, promoting civic engagement, and advocating for meaningful police and criminal justice reform. In every city where the league franchise owns and controls the arena property, team governors will continue to work with local election officials to convert the facility into a voting location for the 2020 general election to allow for a safe, in-person voting option for communities vulnerable to COVID. If a deadline has passed, team governors will work with local election officials to find another election-related use for the facility, including but not limited to voter registration and ballot receiving boards. 3. The league will work with the NBA, with the players, and our network partners to create and include advertising spots in each NBA playoff game dedicated to promoting greater civic engagement in national and local elections and raising awareness around voter access and opportunity. These commitments follow months of close collaboration around designing a safe and healthy environment to restart the NBA season, providing a platform to promote social justice, as well as creating an NBA foundation focused on economic empowerment in the black community. We look forward to the resumption of the playoffs and continuing to work together in Orlando and in all NBA team markets to push for meaningful and sustainable change. That's it. That's what Doc was talking about. How do you get change? You go and vote for it. Chris Paul helped the whole Thunder team register to vote so that you can go and vote. It's and I think maybe this is some of the frustrations, and maybe this is the things that were hashed out in these meetings between these guys. It's great to talk. It's great to see signs. It's great to have all these things. It's great to have the the platform to stand on and speak from. But how do we actually get change? You got to go vote for it. You have to demand it, and you have to put people in place to facilitate that change. And that doesn't just mean the person who's president. That means locally. It starts from the bottom on up. And I think, and we've seen, more teams with local things like the Bucks, directly talking to their legislature to get something happen, to try and hear, special sessions on police reform. Let's not wait. Let's do this now.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean make an immediate change right now without a discussion and like Doc said, we're not trying to take away, like you said, his dad was a cop. He believes in cops. I think all of us believe in the police. We want police. I think you'd ask anybody, should there be police? I'd imagine most people will say yes. But it should be a police force that serves and protects. And a lot do. I know a lot. But there's also problems in a lot of places. So
yeah, I mean,
why not fix them?
whether
it's okay.
Training or the people. Yeah, I mean, there's ways to go about it. Obviously, just like anything else, there's bad people, there's good people, there's bad cops, there's good cops. Obviously, if you get rid of the police, who knows what the hell would happen? You don't want to do that. But it's also these police that get away with these things because they're police. At the end of the day, much like athletes, people forget athletes are actual people. They're not just there for our entertainment to go out and play whatever it is, baseball, basketball. They're people at the end of the day, and they're using this platform in a big way to initiate change, and hopefully it does happen. Because I think for whatever reason, whether we've gone backwards or we just didn't realize how still far behind we are in these measures where, it's just like, I don't know what can you do? You just have to, like they're trying to do, is try to create change. I mean, it's based on fact that Black people are racially profiled, and there is still racism in this country. I don't know how you can argue otherwise. And really, all you need to see too is Jacob Blake was bad enough, and then you have, as far as I understand, somewhat peaceful protests that are escalated by 17-year-old kids with AR-15s.
Exactly.
Walking down the street.
That
the police
whole situation tells you all you need to know. A black man who was he was at a scene of a fight. There were police there. Did he was he walking away from an officer and going to his car, and an officer could say, I felt threatened, so I shot him? Well, you had to shoot him 7 times. You were right behind him. You were so close to him, in fact, that you could grab his shirt and shoot him in the back, but you couldn't just grab him to stop him from doing. There was plenty of people. There were like 7 officers there. You guys, if this guy was threatening, you couldn't have done something else. And like you said, that comes back to training. And I know a lot of times, it's taught. The gun, pulling the trigger should be the last resort. To any situation. And if you pull the trigger, these guys are put in a very tough situation, and I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of what cops should and shouldn't do, right? But you see right there with that situation what happened with Jacob Blake, and then nights later, a child, 17-year-old child with a gun, shoots someone. 2 people, 3 people, 2 are dead, 1's injured. And then is continuing to walk down the street. There's a caravan of police cars coming down the street. This kid is in the air, holding, these cars are going in the direction of where there's just been a murders. Here comes a kid, a child, holding a gun over his head. And you watch the video, it looks like he's ready to surrender. Like he knows, oh,
Yeah.
they're coming for me. I'm going to surrender. And they just go right by. They don't even
Yeah.
stop for a second. And if you watch what happened to Jacob Blake and you watch that video and you don't think that his skin tone had anything to do, that the color of his skin had nothing to do with the police just driving right by that kid, then again, you don't understand the situation.
Yeah.
that right there tells you, because you know if I didn't want to have to say, I'm not going to say his name because I'm not going to say his name. If that kid was black, the cops would not have gone right by him.
Yeah. 100%.
We can say that.
Again,
That's speculation, but I think we can all agree that would have happened. They would have stopped him. And that right there is the problem, folks. That's the problem, and that's what has people so upset.
Yeah. Like we said, it's not the individual. Like Jacob Blake is just the latest incident of this, just the latest, and that's the outrage comes with good measure and good reason after that happened. But it's not. They're not singling it out and doing it just for this one instance. They're doing it for all the instances before and what's to come after and everything else. And people are tired of it. Yeah. And the NBA and its players, they're going to stand up for what they believe, and I'm 100% with them.
Yeah.
Point blank.
Yeah, totally. And then it's things like the aftermath. Jacob Blake is shot, and hours of time is spent, justifying that. Oh well, he was a bad guy. Look at, he had a warrant out for his arrest. He did this. He did this. He did this in his past, and maybe let's drag up everything about somebody to justify him basically attempted murder from police officers. This was not like he got shot on the street by random people. These were police officers. It doesn't matter what you've done or what a charge against you or anything. Your past should not be used to justify police officers shooting you. Then you flip forward to this kid who's murdered people, who has actually just murdered people, and people are like, oh, well, look, this is a picture, look at this picture of him, like, the day before going and cleaning graffiti off a wall. He's a good kid, It's like what happened with the Duke lacrosse players. That's what these kids have their whole lives in front of them. I saw a great meme. It showed, for those thinking that this kid washing dishes can be used as, this kid scrubbing graffiti, a picture of that can be used to justify at all what he did. Here's a picture of Ted Bundy washing dishes, like at a shelter.
Yeah.
There you go. That should diffuse that argument. And that's another part of what the frustration is. Somebody who's a minority does something, let's try and find every reason to justify why them being shot or killed is good or right somehow. Murdered. A white person does something, they become a sympathetic character. Black people become the villain when they're the victim. And that's the other problem.
Yeah, the biggest example is you see everyone saying that he was resisting arrest and running away from the police. Except for the fact that when you look at the white male, the crazy white male that's running at police, being tased, rips the taser out and tackles the cop, there's no shots there. So wherein lies the difference? Why is there a huge difference there?
Yeah. I agree. And these are the reasons why people are upset. And as Doc said, it's not just, you don't have to be black to be upset. You need to be American. If you're American, if you're a patriot, this should upset you. If you truly believe in this country and what it stands for, these things should upset you. So the NBA is coming back. They already came back. They came back last night. Major League Baseball didn't play. Everything kind of grounded for a halt for one night, and then things came back pretty quickly. How do we feel about how the other leagues handled things? NHL never stopped. Should they have? Should they have had to stop? I mean, is it just
They
an,
they,
a,
they
a,
did
a,
they did they pushed games back. They did.
um? Did they on Thursday? Did they not play? I can't like this week's already
Yeah,
been
they
so
did.
long. I can't. This is my I can't
Yeah,
remember.
the Bruins, and there's another game on
That's right.
slated for
That's right.
Friday, and they pushed back. Yeah,
That is right. That's
but
correct.
they did it a little bit later than everybody else. I will say that.
Um, is it up to any of these other leagues to it's obviously the NBA has come to the table. They were ready to leave and they got changed from their own. Do other leagues need to do like the NFL? Some teams have stopped practice for a couple of days. Blah blah blah. Does there do you think there will be a push from other leagues? Maybe they don't have to boycott games now because the attention's already been brought there. Um, do you think these players will go to the leagues and say, "Listen, we want you guys to do the same thing that the NBA is doing. We don't need to boycott games. Can't we? Let's just do it." And will there be will there be more? The NFL season is like 10 days away. Will we see more? Could we potentially see like an NBA, an NFL boycott, walkout, any sort of thing? I definitely think you're going to see more people kneeling. You're going to see more at the games this year.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it is. Uh, there's a higher chance than ever before that it could happen, um, and it only takes one incident. Now, obviously, a lot of the players know it's not going to happen overnight. This change, but it's all about the pursuit of the change and how they want to go about it. And I think the NBA did it the right way. The other leagues, I know like you can I really think you can have it both ways, right? I don't think I think the players can decide. Like Jason Hayward of the Cubs said he was not going to play, and his teammates said no problem. You know, uh, you can stand up for what you believe. That's perfectly fine. Do you mind if we play? What do you think? What do you want us to do? And he said, go play. So it doesn't have to be one or the other. I think the reaction that the NBA players had is very important. They're very unified in that league. They stand up together, and I think they kind of started the whole trickle effect. I know Mookie Betts didn't play for the Dodgers, um, and the team was supportive of that. They still played their game. Some games were postponed. So I think there's plenty of ways to do it, and I think it's really about the players and how they want to go about it. I think the NFL it's definitely possible that they could do it. Especially if things keep popping up like this, I think there's a chance that sports go away for a time being here. Obviously, um, everything going on in this country between the racial injustices and the pandemic, and everybody's at an all time high of anxiety, and it's a weird time, and I think now it should be heightened, and I think it is, and rightfully so. And these guys want to stand up for what they believe in. So could there be more? Absolutely. I'm not convinced that we're going to get an NBA championship just yet. We'll see how the players do this, and if the owners and players come together and there's real initiative um, and they take it seriously on the owner's part, and they want to push for this stuff, which I know some have already, and I think there's a good chance that you continue playing, you use the platform, and you see how it plays out, and you strive for the change. Same with the NFL. I think the NFL is an interesting one because they're typically a league that is kind of way different than everything else. So I think there could be huge impacts when it comes to the NFL because Devin McCourty most notably just said like um, he's hopeless. He's feeling hopeless. So it's just people are angry. They're tired of it, and they want change. And I think it ties in with these athletes because this is what they do, and they have the platform to really stand up and kind of initiate these conversations, and whether you get pushback on it or not, um, it's still a good thing.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Um, I think we've kind of said everything that needs to be said. Um, I honestly don't even want to give we could get into some of the actual things that happen with games and teams and stuff this week. I know we probably could do like another hour and talk sports, but I don't want to take anything away from what we've just said. Um, and at the end here, I'm going to play. I want to play the Doc Rivers video again. So if you're watching live, you'll get to see it. And I'm gonna let that um, close the show. Um, you know, different show, but it's been a different week. It's been a different year. We picked a hell of a time to have a sports show, right, Christian?
Yeah, I know. Seriously, whew, been a
um,
hell of a year.
um, but hey, in the end, it's not for lack of content. Um, so it'll be one of those things where we'll look back. Hey, if we could get through shows talking, only about how many hamburgers can you eat in a day, and there's no sports to speak of. When society does return to normal, we'll be just fine. Um, yeah, so that's gonna do it for us. I'm gonna play this Doc Rivers clip again and let everybody listen to that. Um, and I agree with this message. You know what? It's a very important time in the world and in the country right now, and everybody does have power, and that's to go vote. So, uh, we all can be doing more to speak up, speak out, educate ourselves, and vote for change. So that's gonna do it for us, Andrew Pizzelli and Christian Lauber, and we're gonna let Doc Rivers here close out the show. Stay safe, everyone.